Hey, and welcome to the How to Talk to Girls podcast. This is your host, Trip, from tripadvice.com. And today's episode, we are going to be having an interview with a friend of mine slash coach. And it's very rare that I'm able to interview people that I'm friends with who are also in the dating space, in the personal development space. And so I'm happy to say that today we have one of those interviews, and it's with Mr. Spencer Burnett, and he is a Chicago-based dating and sex coach, but also runs the League of Badass Gentlemen. That's the leagueofbadassgentlemen.com, and he explains more towards the end of the podcast what it's all about, but I'll just kind of give you a quick little synopsis. Basically, the League of Badass Gentlemen is a really cool website where there's a community of guys learning about how to get better at everything and anything. So whether it's in fitness, whether it's in dating and sex, whether it's in your career and wealth, whether it's in happiness, right? So all these different areas. And he is the commissioner of that website. So highly suggest you check that out. But before you do, check out this interview with Spencer and I. We get pretty deep here. And you know, whenever me and him talk, we get pretty deep. I think it's just because of him. He's a very deep guy, and he really gets down to the core of what's important in terms of, well, whatever it is we're talking about. But today specifically, we're talking about this idea of what happens after you get everything you want. And I know that this might be tough for you to think about right now because you might not be in that mindset. You're like, well, Trip, I'm not there yet. I'm still trying to attract girls. I'm still trying to get over my approach anxiety. I'm still trying to get a girlfriend. But in this podcast, we kind of break down how that all works together with what happens after you get it, right? And it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, you know, like what comes first? Getting everything you want and then being able to attract women, or do you attract women first and then you get everything you want? I know this sounds kind of like a little confusing right now, but we have it make a lot of sense in this interview. So highly suggest wherever you are right now in terms of your skill level with talking and attracting and seducing women, that you listen to this podcast episode. It's going to help you out a lot in terms of your overall kind of plan in terms of getting better with girls. So listen up. Here it is, Spencer and I chatting away. Check it out. Hey, Spencer. How you doing, man?
Hey, Trip. What's going on, man?
Nothing much. I'm happy to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, dude. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited for this. I love your podcast, man.
Awesome. I know we're going to talk about some different stuff today. Why don't you give a little background about yourself first and tell the guys who you are and what you're up to and why you're on the podcast and all that great stuff.
Yeah, well, I started I started being a dating and sex coach about in 2009, like middle of 2009. And I was helping guys, be more successful in bed with women. And from there, I kind of realized that, it's more than just pressing the right buttons. So then it was like, okay, well, what do you say to them? And then it was like, okay, well, now that you're sleeping with them, you got to treat them right. You got to keep them around. So like, how do you date them? And then after it was, learning how to date them, it was how do you be in a relationship? And then I was guiding, guys in their experiences of disintegrating a relationship or breaking up. And from there, it just kind of like, coaching guys on different elements of their life just kept getting wider and wider. And, now I do my coaching in all areas of success for men, whether that's dating, spirituality, health, and basically life integration, like how to turn mastery in one area and have it apply to everything.
So what got you started in being a dating and sex coach? Like how did you come to start doing that?
When people ask the question, when did you start? Typically they mean like professionally, when did you start getting paid? But when did I start I started the activity of helping men become more successful with women. I'd say probably like 7th or 8th grade, where guys would come to me to ask me, my opinion, and I would help them, woo their girlfriends. And so it was something that I always had a passion for.
So you
But
were kind of like a natural.
Oh, absolutely. And I always got along better with women than I did with men. I mean, a little bit better, but I always had a really good, connection with them. I had a confident feminine energy while still maintaining my masculinity.
Yeah, see, I had all that without maintaining my masculinity. I was the guy. I was just like you. Like I got along well with women. But I was always friend zoned. So that was kind of my issue. But continue.
Yeah. So in 2008, I was in the fitness industry for a while, and I really thrived on helping people develop their habits to get what they want in the fitness realm. And so I kind of combined that skill with my passion for helping men connect with women better. And so it started with giving advice on oral sex. So I was going to write a book on how to effectively give a girl an orgasm during oral sex. And my girlfriend at the time was like, forget that, you're not doing it. Well, then we broke up, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And, I gave one guy a piece of advice. He came back, and I started kind of writing, and he told a friend, and it kind of snowballed from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so it sounds like as you evolved as a person, so did what you teach. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We were talking before this call how, a lot of guys will end up, finding their success, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Right.
I know a lot of guys right now listening or maybe not there yet, but I think this is something really interesting to think about, and it can kind of maybe lead you in a better direction, because a lot of guys right now are, just trying to get the girl, get dates, get sex, maybe get a girlfriend, and all that stuff is great. But we were talking earlier that what happens when you get all that? Like what happens to you when you make that transition? And it's tough because I never thought that way. When I was learning this stuff, I never thought that far ahead. I was actually a little, I don't know if the word is cynical or maybe pessimistic, but I wasn't even sure I was going to get the results that I wanted to see when I was starting to learn it. So it was hard for me to take that leap and think about, well, what happens when I do get it? So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, when I bring this up to guys that I'm coaching, they immediately seem to kind of tune out. When I ask them, okay, once you can go into a bar, get a girl's number, and take her home and sleep with her, what do you want to do next? And all they want to focus on is getting that goal. But understanding what you do next, a lot of the times, is the thing that's standing in your way from you actually achieving the goal to be able to get what you want. A lot of times the reason that we don't have the things that we want is because we don't know what we would do with ourselves once we got it. And at that point, we become bored and complacent, and we stand still. We become stale. And you notice this a lot if you take a look at the dating industry, the pickup industry. And you take a look at the guys that have evolved, since the early 2000s and stuff, and look at the way that their careers are moving. A lot of the guys are following a very similar path that I'm talking about, where it starts with pickup. How do I talk to a girl? And then it's like, oh my gosh, I can talk to her. How do I get a phone number? Remember when that was a big deal? You know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah,
I went to the bar and I got 5 phone numbers. Oh my God,
Right.
And that's great. And then it's like, okay, well, now that you got the phone number, you got to get this girl on a date. Well, then you're, oh man, now I got, I've got 5 dates this week. Remember when that was a big deal? I slept with, I took her home the night that I met her, or I slept with a woman. So all of these things, by the way, as you continue to, this becomes kind of more automatic in your mind. These are still very important skills, and you know what I mean. And if you're still striving for one of these skills, this conversation is still good for you. But it encourages you to look a step further into what's next, because we always have to be chasing something. That chasing something is part of the formula for growth.
Right. So what was happening with you once you were always a natural. So I don't know, maybe it was a little bit different with you. But I guess, what have you seen maybe in terms of your students who are successful when they work with you? Maybe you contact them. I don't know if you contact them like months or years later. What's their next step? What do they end up doing after they've reached all their, goals with women and dating?
Yeah, so usually, they come to me, students come to me, and they have a particular need, whether it's like you said, they want a girlfriend, or they want to get laid, or whatever that is. And in that process of them discovering how to accomplish that goal in a way that's repeatable, in a way that is effective and efficient, the desire to get better in that area goes away, because there's not much more improvement you can do. I mean, you can always improve, but it becomes granular, your improvements. But what you're truly chasing is success, is the ability to accomplish one's goals. And so what they end up learning is mastery, like how to accomplish one's goals in a certain area. So what happens after they become this charismatic guy that they've always wanted to be, that could get pretty much any girl that they want, they then focus that ability to learn a skill set to accomplish one's goals and point it in a different direction.
Where do you suggest a guy does that? I know it's probably particular to every single person, but once someone achieves, I don't want to say mastery, because that might turn a lot of guys off. They might think like, whoa, mastery. But let's just say once they get everything that they want, do you have any suggestions for the guys out there of maybe where to go next with, I don't know, with anything?
Yeah, well, where to go next is wherever you're curious, or wherever you're curious, or wherever you feel pain. You know what I mean? And if that is hard for you to come up with a concept of where you're curious or where you find pain, then I always suggest that guys start with meditation, like exploring yourself to find the next area that you desire to master.
Ah, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I think that when guys end up getting into this, like I said earlier, it's so hard for them to see in the future, but I mean, I can relate. Once I figured it out, it was a huge deal to me. But now that I look back at it, it's so weird how it doesn't feel like that big of a deal anymore. Just because you're not sitting in it,
Right.
you're kind of just back to you. You're not really focused on, oh, okay, like I lack in this area of my life. But what was really cool is that, not just for me but for other guys too, is this is definitely a big pain point, right? Because we're sexual beings, so we want to learn how to get women. And then once you kind of figure that out, you've almost, without intention, trained yourself to become better at achieving goals.
Yeah.
Like you set out to do something really, really big, and you achieved it, and that's hard. Like that's really hard to stick with something and to accomplish what it is you want to accomplish. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm powerful. What's next?
Yeah. Right. And when you're wanting to get a girlfriend, or wanting to learn pickup, or get laid, it's about getting the girl, which is an active process with the intention of a specific result, which is different than attracting girls, which is women, them getting closer to you is an act of their movement, not yours. Okay? And so what happens is you learn how to have command over your world of women, right? You learn how to talk to them, to sleep with them, and all of that. And then you're like, what else can I have command over? And then you choose something. I mean, shit, it might be golf, right? It might be business. It might be martial arts, whatever it is. But by mastering that, you make yourself inherently more attractive to women, causing them to gravitate towards you. So now you've learned how to get them, and as you learn how to have more command and control over your world, that attracts them more, because everyone's looking for certainty. Everyone's looking for someone who knows what they're doing, for a leader, for an alpha. And a man that has command and control over his world, his physical body, his mind, his emotions, his relationships, his physicality, his effect. When you have precision, command, efficiency, effectiveness in your life, that naturally draws high quality women towards you. So the funny thing is like
it's backwards.
It's backwards. The less I focus on actually going out and picking up women, and the more I focus on having command over my world, whether it's financially, professionally, physically, it attracts more women with way less effort. Now, you combine that with the ability to speak to them and all the things that you learn in your seduction techniques. You start to feel invincible.
Yeah, totally. And it's just funny, it's like, what's the cliche here? I don't know, like the chicken or the egg or whatever you want to call it, or self-fulfilling prophecy or something like that. I'm drawing a blank, but basically this idea that who you become after you get the girl is the thing that you needed first to get the girl. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's kind of confusing, but I think you understand what I'm saying. I just hope the person listening understands it too. It's like, it is a little backwards. It's kind of like, there's different ways to go about it, but one way, which is not the sexiest way to learn how to meet women, is the if you build it, they will come kind of method, right? It's like, it could be a little bit slower and it's a little bit tougher. And again, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Like, build a lifestyle that you love. Build a, career that you are passionate about. Build a social circle of people that you just love spending time with. All those things, which don't have a direct effect on meeting women, because it's not like you're just going out and approaching or going to bars and those kinds of things. But it's the kind of indirect effect, which is like you're saying, if you do all these great things for you and you're able to achieve goals, you become so much stronger mentally. And then all of a sudden, girls pick up on that. When you meet a girl and you're, really secure with who you are and you love yourself and you have a great life that you enjoy and love, every day to the fullest, these girls will see that. And you don't need a lot of the, lines or maneuvers or things to attract them, because they're, like you're saying, they just become attracted to you. The thing is, you still need the seduction skills, because you got to understand, like a girl can be attracted to you, but if you don't know what to do with that, then you're kind of screwed. So you still need the schooling of that, just like you're going through the schooling of, building your life and creating the life you want and all that stuff. But I don't know, I think we're kind of tapping into something here that maybe a lot of guys don't really realize, is that you can do this reverse way. Again, it's just not as sexy, because it's like you're kind of sitting there like, well, when are the girls going to come? I'm doing all this stuff, where are the girls?
So to your chicken and the egg kind of conundrum that it is, if you build it, they will come, but you still want to learn how to pick up girls. So it's like, how do you go about doing this? And the problem is that once you build a lifestyle that you love, a life that a woman would want to be a part of, you no longer need the things that you learned when you were first learning pickup. And so your brain tells you that you wasted your time. And so you're fighting this thing. Well, you're holding on to all of the, to learning pickup and stuff like that, when you no longer need it, when you actually have a lifestyle and you're living a life that just attracts women. So, but the thing is, it's not a waste of time. It's a building block for building a lifestyle. So how do you simultaneously build it so they will come, and also learn how to go get the women that you want to date at the same time? And it really starts where most of us did start, which is like, okay, I'm scared to even start the process, which is approaching, right? So you build courage to approach. And in that, you're learning skills that help you in other areas of your life. Approach anxiety, learning how to get over approach anxiety has way more applications than just meeting the women that you want to date. I mean, making sales and business, taking any type of risk. It teaches you how to manage fear, which is a fundamental, fundamental life skill. But it starts with skills and understanding how communication works and practicing that. And once I get guys to the level where they're comfortable talking to women, you always try to stay a step ahead and always ask, okay, well, you're doing well. Once you get to a point where you don't have to think about this anymore, what's the next plan? And that's really the job of a coach, right? Is to be the project manager of your progression, of your success. And you always have to be thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead. Once we accomplish this, then what happens next? What happens next? And that eventually is how you build a lifestyle. And that's really what I do with any of my students now, is we take a look at the basic elements of their life and say, where are you struggling or where are you curious? And we focus on that.
I love it. Where do you think most guys, do you have a percentage, maybe like a high percentage of guys who are curious about one specific thing after they've accomplished meeting women? Like, have you seen most guys who end up kind of conquering the women and dating and sex area usually go on to this? Have you seen that anywhere? Have you seen
Yes.
a pattern?
Yeah, so it depends on where they're at in life. If they're a younger guy, they
Sure.
usually want to focus on business, making money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Establish themselves. If it's an older guy, he usually wants to work on something kind of more physical. You know what I mean? Getting in shape or something like that. But where after that they've accomplished, the young guys have made the money and the young guy or the older guys have gotten in shape. The place where most guys go is into personal development and spirituality, connecting your imagination, your desires, and your feelings and applying them to the real world. That's my definition of self-development or spirituality. They become fascinated by improvement and success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As an overall concept.
Yeah, I see that too. I definitely see that. I mean, that was definitely for me. I think I was always slightly interested in personal development, but it didn't really kick in until I started to find different materials online and things like that in terms of how to meet girls. Because it kind of is all hand in hand, right? It's like
Right.
It's like women are going to be attracted to a guy who's got his act together, and to get your act together, you usually go through some personal development. You learn how to be a better person and stronger, and like you said, beat the fear and things like that. So it kind of ties in hand in hand. So it's really kind of cool that these days a lot of guys, I should say, are kind of moving that way. Is that they find this they get sucked in because they, like I said, they want to have sex and they want to meet girls, and then that brings them to this other path, or at least I hope, and I hope the guys listening are either agreeing or going down that path themselves, or will think about that for themselves. Is life is definitely much more than meeting girls. It seems at maybe one point in your life, maybe because you're younger, or maybe because I don't know, maybe because you're older and never had any women in your life, but you think it's everything, and a lot of that I feel like is your biology kind of just like kicking in. Like your biology is really strong and it wants you to mate and it wants you to spread your seed, but you end up finding that there is way more to life than just chasing girls, and there's way more fulfillment opportunity for you beyond just sticking your dick somewhere. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, but on the other hand, meeting girls is really important. And having the skill set to do it when all you have is your skill set is important. So it's not like, okay, build this life for you, and you'll never have to learn pickup. You'll never have to get over approach anxiety. If you're making money, if you're in great shape, if you've got a great social circle, you don't got to worry about that stuff. That's not true. And that's reflective in my journey. I was in a relationship for 10 years, okay? And I spent from when I was 15, 14 to 24, 23, okay? And I spent all that time building a business, building a life, building a social circle. I had everything. And then my relationship ended, okay? And I started dating. Well, dating was easy, man. I was driving a $60,000 car. I had 15 employees. I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, simple. But then I lost everything. I mean, everything. Okay? I lost everything from my driving privileges to my health to my money to everything. And I was like, okay, if you build it, they will come. But what if it gets destroyed? Who are you then? How do you demonstrate your character through communication of simply just being you in a way that attracts women? And I had to figure that out. I had to reverse engineer that. So I kind of came from a backwards, position to where I almost didn't have to run pickup, but then I lost everything. It's like, okay, all you have is your words, your presence, and your attention. How are you going to attract a woman now? So the skills of pickup always in dating and seduction are always relevant, no matter what. Because if you do lose everything, then that skill set's all that you have.
Right. It's like the skill set they always say. People who are really rich, like Donald Trump, he's been bankrupt multiple times, but he doesn't really worry about that because he knows how to build it up again. Versus
Exactly.
someone who won the lottery, like. They lose their money. That's it. Like they're screwed. You know what I mean? But people who've built money, built something, built wealth, and then crashed, and then where they're able to do it again because they know exactly how to get there.
Right, and that's the problem with some guys that improve too quickly. Because so I'll work with a guy and I'm like, hey, this is a 6-month program, and this is a 6 month to a year program.
I know where you're
Let's take time. So he starts off, he's scared a little bit, gets over some fear. He meets a few girls, and then he lands a girlfriend, and he's 3 weeks in. He lands this girlfriend, and he is the happiest man on the planet. He's like, I did it. I won. I crossed the finish line. All right, Spence, thanks a lot, man. And it's like, yo, you learned how to get it, but you learned how to do it, but did you learn how you did it? Did you learn the building blocks, the essence of it, the elements of it, so you can repeat it? Because if that girl tells you to scram, you're still at square one. You see what I'm saying? So it's tricky. A lot of times when I'm teaching guys how to get a girlfriend, I actually suggest that they go through a few breakups first, because again, you want a girlfriend, but what happens when that's over? How do you manage that? And that's something that guys don't think about. Everyone wants to learn, how do I meet women? Then how do I sustain a relationship? But people, when it comes to breakups, they just try to deal with it as opposed to doing it gracefully. And that really is the kind of final step in terms of like direct skill set that I work with men, is how to gracefully disintegrate your life with the woman that you're dating.
How do you mean by that?
Well, okay, so when breakups are similar to getting together. Like, no one just starts dating the day that they meet, right? It's a courting process, and breaking up is the same thing. Now, when you meet a girl, you simply are just meeting, trying to talk to her. Hey, what's your life about? What's my life about? And then soon it becomes, do you want to do something on Saturday? Then it becomes, what are we doing on Saturday? And you start to integrate basic elements of your life. You start to integrate your schedule. You start to integrate your friend groups. You start to integrate your family. And there's an art to that, of cultivating and building a relationship. But at some point, the only thing that's guaranteed in relationships is that it's going to end. Either someone's going to die or someone's leaving someone else. So how do you gracefully handle a relationship when it starts to part? Because once you connect with someone, you're always connected. So when you break up, basically what you're doing is not necessarily breaking up. You're just loving that person from a farther distance. You're disintegrating your life. We no longer share a schedule now. We no longer share finances. We no longer share a friend group. So how do you deconstruct a relationship and still with good intentions and a good heart?
Right.
That's way harder than meeting women. And ironically, when you learn that skill of how to disintegrate a relationship with a woman in a tasteful way that is done in love, you actually learn how to create a relationship and to create a connection a whole lot better by learning how to deconstruct it.
Right. So kind of going back to what we're saying here is there's more to learning about women than just getting into the relationship or getting laid. It goes even further than that, And I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense because there is a lot more than that. It's just the fact that guys don't really seek it out because I think a lot of guys end up settling. I think they get into the relationship and then they're like, goal accomplished. I got the girl. Mm-hmm. And then that's pretty much it. And they don't take their search for knowledge any further. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's definitely important for guys to continue that journey and not just stop once they accomplish some sort of, small goal with meeting women.
Right. And it's hard for a guy who's still trying to accomplish that goal to hear that point. You know what I mean? Because learning how to disintegrate a relationship with a woman, in his mind, it doesn't serve his ability to get a woman. So I'll pay attention to that later. And what I'm saying is, if you want to learn how to seduce women in a way that has them completely, enthralled by your existence, right? Learning how to tastefully break up with them helps you be better at seducing women. It does help you directly with the skill set of that the guys listening to this podcast want to attain. It really ultimately seduction, a big part of seduction is empathizing with her world, understanding what she's going through, and again having the ability to have command over your world. And that plays such a huge role in seduction in any phase of it.
Right, being in control, taking charge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the ultimate masculine right there.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great. Spencer, this has been really awesome. I feel like we covered a lot of different topics, but kind of all under the same theme, which is really helpful. And I want to know, where can guys find you if they want to do any kind of work with you? And guys, Spencer really is incredible at what he does. I feel like just hanging out with him, because we're buddies. This isn't just someone I reached out to do an interview with, but we're actually friends, and just spending time with him, I already feel like I'm kind of deeper into myself, and I'm always learning from him, even just being around him as a friend, not even as a coach. So imagine what he can do when he's actually coaching and helping you, on your path. So Spencer, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at the League of Badass Gentlemen. So the League of Badass Gentlemen is a community of guys that's a peer-to-peer network of guys that are all about self-improvement in whatever area in life, wherever that it is that you want to focus. And here's the thing is, I've had all types of experiences in life, just like everyone else, and which creates unique perspectives that can be useful. But the thing is like, the world today is so dynamic that there's no one person that can teach you everything you need to learn. So that's why growing, developing, learning within a community serves you so much more, because you can kind of pick and choose what specifically you need from someone who knows specifically what you want to know in order for you to improve yourself. So if you go to the League of Badass Gentlemen, it's a private membership community where we exchange ideas and do one-on-one coaching. I make myself accessible to all my members because it's really just about helping people get what they want out of life and live hard.
Awesome. I love it. So go to leagueofbadassgentlemen.com. I'll put that in the show notes. It's an awesome website. I got some videos in there too, and I don't make any money off of it, so I'm not selling it for my purpose. I'm just telling you it is a great resource for guys with really good information. I vetted it myself, so go check it out. Spencer, thanks again, man.
All right, and before we take off, Trip, I want to say, before we were friends, I was a fan of your work. I've been watching your YouTube channel from the beginning, man. And I told you this before in a conversation that we had, or I think it's in a video that we shot together. But you were the guy that made me believe that I could be just a super authentic, great guy and still have a great seductive effect on women without feeling like scum. So what you're doing is a service not just to men, but what you're doing is a service to women, because you're showing them how to be the best version of themselves, and that's really what women want, man. So thank you for everything you do. It's inspired me to do what I do, and hopefully you guys have taken a lot from Trip, because I know I certainly have.
Dude, thank you. That means a lot. Obviously, your words mean a lot to me, so I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that we were able to connect on this call, and I don't think this will be the last podcast that we do together. So guys, stay tuned for more. Spencer, you're the man.
All right. Thanks a lot, Trip.